I started in the DJ in 2006, met Seb Comer around the end of that year. It was online, and I was basically telling him about how much I love this music. He's my favorite producer in modern EBM and industrial music. Early in 2007, we met up on the West Coast and hung out and started, talking and exchanging some music tracks and everything. And then at the end of 2007 into 2008, I talked about coming out with my first mix album. Although I was kind of reluctant, he twisted my arm, and fortunately I listened. And I decided to use a handful of his tracks and remixes, along with some of the other tracks from artists that I love, and then Chrome Elemental started. Ginger Snaps, roaming from the Ukraine. He was one of the first artists I met online on good old days of MySpace, and he decided to not only put in one of his tracks for the Chrome Elemental album, but he also wanted to do the intro, which I was deeply honored by. It was the first time any other artist had made something specifically for me. So the intro, I ended up playing in a lot of live sets out there for the tour of the album and onwards, and I still play it a little bit, occasionally to this day. Eurotoxic from South America, Chile, I believe. They floored me with their demo album. Every single song on that demo album at the time that I heard it was just amazing. Harsh EDMs, ready for the club floors, and it was fantastic. So I contacted them, and they were happy to have the Lethal Ingestion track to the Chrome Elemental album. I haven't heard from them for a few years. I hope they're still out there doing stuff. I'd love to hear some new things by them. EID, Andre, he's a very good friend. We try to keep in touch online whenever we can. He's from Germany. Again, one of the first artists that I was fortunate to have send me his tracks and materials and everything. With this guy, every single track, I can't think of a track I don't like from the guy, and he sent me tons. And it was very, very hard to choose which ones to use for the mix album because there were so many. So I used a Kill 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 track because it was the most recent at the time. And Death by Stereo, which is the last track on the album, I actually released as a single, or helped him release it, with remixes by a few other US people. So glad I could use him. I really love his music. Seb Comer produced tracks, of course being the focal point of the Chrome Elemental. It was very hard among his many tracks and remixes of which ones I wanted to use. So I used his remix of A-Pop Berserk's Suffer in Silence because that's just a really good, moving track in my opinion. And it seemed to mix seamlessly with his Minotaur project track, Screamer, which I also love. Then he has a Squarehead project on the Fix label, which is more electro stuff. The generator beat modulator was something that had been floating around in my promos in the playlist for about a year, I believe, before I decided to use it. And Chrome Elemental Mix album is also the first time anyone got to hear Comer Commando, which we used the Beat Around the Bushes track. I love the work and probably had a lot to do with me being part of the live setup of the Comer Commando project that the Stasi Juveniles. Alien Vampire sent the Dark Skies track in a very rough format and expected Seb or I to work with it and master it a little bit, but I liked the way it was, so I decided to just play it out and incorporate it to the Chrome Elemental album as it was. They're very heavily used in my rotation music, so I was very happy to use Alien Vampires. They ended up taking the Dark Skies track years later and polishing it up and releasing it in an EP, but I still like the sound of it. Of course, I was going to use Stahlnebel and Black Selket in my mix album. Anybody who knows any DJ well enough knows that I use Stahlnebel and Black Selket whenever I can. I met them around the same time, if not before, that I met Seb online. Stahlnebel's from Germany. Sander, who's Black Selket, is from the Netherlands. They became great friends over the years, and they, to me, produced some of the most quality, pure, what I call pure EBM. And so I used a Stahlnebel track, although it's a remix done by Lynch Defect, which I also like. And I was proud to see the video that they made for it, putting me into it for the Chrome Elemental album. So, good memories. Crowdgen Second, DJ Reaver's God Warrior is a fantastic track. Crowdgen Second and Reaver are both from Tennessee. Reaver at the time was starting up his Subversion Industrial label, which I think he had a couple of releases on. But once I heard this, I had to use it. It's one of the closers of the mix album. It's a standout track. A lot of people really like it. So and I always tell them, if you like this track, you need to hear Crowdgen Second's other work. So.